Hello and welcome to LIPA Come Together podcast. My name's Cherise Weaver and I'm the Head of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion at the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, or as it's better known, LIPA. If you're not familiar with LIPA, we are a world-leading provider of university-level performing and creative arts training, an international community of creators, performers, technicians, filmmakers and business people who learn by working together on fully realised projects and productions. During this series of podcasts, we'll be celebrating the creative work and cultural scene in Liverpool and here in LIPA. We'll be chatting to cultural organisations and leaders, artists and performers as we consider how art can make a difference to all of our lives. Hi Siobhán and welcome to our podcast LIPA Come Together.
Hi Cherise. Hello Pod Squad, back there. Hello.
Yeah, we do have a great team. The students here at LIPA are absolutely amazing to work with. Nothing's ever too much. You know that because you work quite closely with a lot of the students.
Got a great team, yeah.
So how, as you know, we like to start the podcast is with our quick fire questions. So are you ready, Siobhán?
Well, yeah, I should be, shouldn't I? Because I am a bit of a fan. So I do know maybe what's coming up, but unless you've come up with something new overnight. So hit me with it.
I think we'll stick to the plan.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
So probably my standing order from my local Indian takeaway, which...
Quick fire.
Yeah?
Yeah, quick.
Oh, paneer tikka masala with onion bhaji and vegetable rice.
Okay, that was really good. What's your favourite memory of Liverpool or LIPA?
Favourite LIPA memory was in 2022 when we did like 3 years worth of graduations in 2 days, because a load of those students sort of pootled off during the pandemic just to sort of go home and work on their projects in their houses, and like because we have this 3-week lockdown, and then they never ended up coming back to us, so we didn't get to see them for until like 2 or 3 years later.
Wow.
So yeah, it was nice to see all them people come back.
That must have been something else. That okay. So what set your soul on fire?
People.
Okay.
I'm like a classic extrovert. Everybody needs a bit of alone time, but just having really good, interesting, funny chats with people. Yeah,
okay. And finally, what is something that people frequently get wrong about you when they first meet you?
Up until a couple of years ago, it was that I'm pregnant.
Oh, okay.
And then, except for when I was pregnant, and then people would assume that I was further along than I was.
Okay.
And then when I was really pregnant, I shouldn't go near the beach because people will try and haul me back out to sea like a sea mammal, because I would just be huge because I've had like 2 10-pound nearly baby boys. So yeah.
Okay. Well, God bless you, because I've had kids as well and I know what that's like. Because I think when you get to the end of it, you just want them out. You're kind of like, okay, I'm over this now.
Daniel was 16 days late as well, so really needed an eviction notice. Big mother was tired of it.
Yeah. Sometimes they just don't want to come out. They're so comfortable and cozy in there, they just don't want to come out. So I know all about that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your story, Siobhán, and how you came to be working here at LIPA in front of house, and a little bit about your beginnings, because I know you've actually you can tell the listeners your story, because it's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a juxtaposition or because it's two completely different areas, isn't it?
Well, let's see if that means what you. Well, I think it means. So I started in my local theatre when I was growing up. So I probably don't sound too much like it now, but I'm from Kent, and I did youth theatre there. Proper theatre kid in sort of GCSE age, and then when I was doing sixth form there, I started working front of house team there, kiosk, ushering. I did a bit of stage door bar work during university holidays, but I went off to do STEM subjects at university. So I did a year of electronic and electrical engineering.
Wow.
And wasn't as interested in that, was quite good at the maths. So then I transferred to maths and astrophysics. And then after 2 years, at the end of my second year, I got glandular fever, and just didn't intended to take a year out. But I love science still as like an interest. So like listen to a lot of science podcasts, watch a lot of science documentaries, but it's not where my career, I think, was always destined to be. All the time I was at university, I was working for Manchester Opera House and Manchester Palace Theatre, and I just had so much more fun doing the professional side of things in theatre than I did on my degree. So I didn't go back after my year out. I was working in the West End, so I've worked for a couple of West End West End theatres, Dominion and Theatre Royal Drury Lane. And Theatre Royal Drury Lane was what I was doing just before I moved up to Liverpool. I saw a job advertised in The Stage or The Guardian for assistant house manager at the Everyman. So I came up there, and the Everyman and Playhouse was a difficult organisation for a lot of people to work in at the time, having just sort of relaunched the Playhouse. So I stayed in a job for about 9 months, and before I sort of was like, this isn't for me either. But on the way, after handing my notice in, on the way back up the hill, I popped in to see the current venue manager then, who was Joan Burnett, fantastic woman who now works at Fact. And she got me a few shifts behind LIPA Bar for the later on in the week. And then 6 weeks later, I was running the bar. And I continued to do just that until Joan left to take up the Fact position. And then I was doing bar and front of house until 2005. Since then, I've been theatre manager at the Everyman in Cheltenham as well. 2 Everymans on my CV. I've done deputy general manager at the Palace Theatre in Manchester, at the Liverpool Empire. I did that there and was acting general manager for a little while, and visitor services manager at Tate. And then I also spent 5.5 years working for a coffin manufacturer.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know whether that was what you were referring to, or
It was about what you did your degree in.
Which wasn't coffin manufacturing either. So
wow.
Yeah. But at the same time, while I was doing that, I was also part of a professional theatre company called Impropriety. So we did improv theatre. So I did 5 of the 33.5-hour improvathons that we did. So you do a 33.5-hour long performance. There's lots of intervals, but I did several of those. I did my last one of those when I was about 7.5 months pregnant, and I couldn't stay awake for the last one I did. So I've not done much of that since I had my kids. So even while my day job was office manager and accounts in a coffin manufacturer, I was still performing in the evenings. That's something that used to set my soul on fire. And it was very comedic. So I still, when I'm teaching and things, try and inject a little bit of comedy into when I'm teaching. So yeah, I actually got like an applause break in one of my lectures last term. So I was thinking, yeah, that's obviously working well for me.
I think you have got such a wealth of knowledge in the area that you've worked in. Front of house, you've worked for so many different theatres and organisations. And it's funny because when I first met you, I just thought you were so vibrant, so full of energy. And again, I think like the students, nothing's ever too much for you. So having worked with you recently on, the LIPA X International Women's Day, which was amazing because I really got to know you on a different level. Other than you being Siobhán front of house, and also obviously you was doing the film festival on PD1, the Cultural Film Festival. So I was getting to know you in bits, but working with you was completely different because you are the person that you already know what's needed. Before I'd say I'd need something, you were already there.
Yeah, so there's kind of learning events in general, and then there's learning how events work in LIPA, which is a bigger organisation than any of the sort of teams I've worked. So although I've worked with big organisations, so the Empire and the Manchester Palace Theatre are sort of controlled by big organisations, it's still on your actual site, quite a small team. But LIPA and navigating that, it's a huge and knowing who to go through for different things. And I was sort of aware that you're only a year and a half into post, nearly 2 years into post. And we worked together on the EDI
on the committee. Yeah.
So we know each other a little bit through that as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a real interest from mine. I think one of the things I loved coming out of school and going to work in the West End. So the school that I went to, I had quite a difficult time, like fitting in a lot of the time, subject to a little bit of bullying. And there's something about school kids that they can just find the kid that's a little bit different. But when I went to work in the West End in London, the team that I was working with, one of my best mates was from Brazil. There are people who are grown up in completely different, parts of London. Lots of people from, across the world coming together. That's what London is. It's really a melting pot. So, when everybody's different, then nobody is the odd one out. So that's why I love diversity, having that kind of inclusion of everybody makes nobody feel like they're particularly unusual.
Yeah. And I think with you, I think you embrace everything about yourself and who you are. And I think in a place like LIPA, that's really good to see, because I think when students see that, they can emulate that as well. And they can see that it's okay for me to be me and be the person who I am. So for them that are listening and can't see, Siobhán has got bright, gorgeous purple hair, which I absolutely love. So you can always see it coming.
Yeah, that's this year's colour. I'll probably do a different one next year. Last year was blue. But no, I think when we were on the EDI committee together, and we were sort of asking for feedback on what we wanted our recruitment policy to look like for LIPA, I felt like authenticity and the ability to be yourself is so important when recruiting people. And if your brain is taking up some of its energy just by trying to fit in or mould to a particular culture that isn't you, then you're not able to devote that part of your brain to actually getting on and making the work happen. And luckily that's something that was picked up on and sort of ran with it. And now authenticity is a really important part, I think, of that structure. I mean, obviously we like people to be respectful with each other, kind to each other. But within that, you can do that sort of wearing pretty much what you want, looking how you want, because you're only in work for a sort of a quarter of your work, of your week sort of thing. And the rest of the time, I have my purple hair for me wherever I go, not just in work. So you see what I mean? It's like, it's having to flip, code switching, that kind of thing. It just takes up too much of your brain to be engaged fully with what you're doing, if that's something that you have to do. So I think authenticity is so important.
So just talking about, diversity, inclusivity, and being on the committee together as well, I want to ask you how you feel about some of the changes and what are the standout changes for you, I suppose, since I came into post.
We were crying out for you for such a long time before you came along on the committee, and there was a change of leadership. And with that came the change in the way that we're going to do things, and having that dedicated resource in you. And I know you could do your job 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and you still would feel like there's more to do. But just having someone so ready to like you as well. I remember you coming in and sitting down next to me on the first welcome back meeting, and I was like, so excited to meet you because we've just been crying out for you. And I think that's been a sort of top down in some respects. But what I was doing was getting involved with the P1 class, which is the professional that the first years do. So with working with Jed, who was the module leader of that class at the time, we started to look at that syllabus so that we could include things like cultural intelligence, building the cultural film festival, and the importance of kind of being open to people from across the world and all different upbringings, even within this country, and sort of understanding that not everybody has our backstory and our way of doing things, but you still can work together and respect that. So that's very much about what I was sort of teaching on P1 and what the Cultural Film Festival is all about. So my idea is being that you get every single first year in a room, and then you do the same the next year. And by the time a year, 3 years have gone by, everybody is on board with this idea that LIPA is somewhere that wants to include everybody. So I thought that was a great opportunity to do that as well.
I spoke to some of the students that I work with. I support really doing the Black Ball. As you know, it's a student-led event. And when they'd found out about this new cultural film festival, they were saying, oh, we would have loved to have done that, because they were in their second year, which was really good to know. And I know that the students that actually did do it really enjoyed it. So hopefully that will continue as well, because I think it is a really good way for people to share the cultures and get to know each other, and build good friendships and relationships and stuff like that. So I think it's a really clever way to embed ED&I as well through that kind of work. And I know we do it in lots of other areas throughout the whole institution, but that really does bring it to the forefront, because other people are learning about other people's cultures and things like that through a module. I mean,
it's so important to have that understanding about how different things can be depending on where you come from. So like the first module lecture we did last year, which was one I did in the PMA, and we were talking about the importance of having sort of diverse voices in the performing arts. I gave some examples of like Paul Simon working with Ladysmith Black Mambazo, which sort of opened their music up to the world. We talked about we showed a little snippet of George Harrison having a sitar lesson with Ravi Shankar. But one of the things we sort of moved on to talk about was, LIPA has this idea that we want to be respectful and kind, but the way that we show respect to other people differs from where we come from in the world. So I showed this like grid of 4 different photos. And in the first photo, there's a load of people sort of quite close together standing in a line. And then there's another photo of people in a line, but everybody is 6 feet apart along the road. And then there was another photo of lots of shoes just left in a doctor's waiting room in a line going up to the counter. And then there was just a fourth one, which was a huddle of people. And I was saying all these people are doing the same thing, but they're doing it in the way of the cultural norms of their country.
Yeah.
So the UK, where we love a good queue, and like a couple of years ago, we had the world's most epic queue for the lying in state of the monarch. That's where we were sort of queue close together. But if you do that in Scandinavia, which was where the second picture was from, I'm not sure if it was Finland, you go and stand next to the person in front of you, and that's going to be weird, because everybody has that personal space of about 6 feet. Even before it was fashionable with the pandemic, that's what was going on there. And then in Thailand, you put your shoes where your place in the queue is, and then when your place comes up, you can get your shoes and go off. And then in Cuba, you all stand around in a huddle when somebody joins the queue, and it's like somebody says, "Oh, who's ultimo?" and somebody put their hands up, and it's not your turn until that person's gone. And every single person who's going along with that system is showing respect to the people around them, but they're doing it in completely different ways. So if you come to a country, navigating those social norms and the way that people speak to each other is going to be tricky until you work out the system. So like it particularly bringing first years together, it's really important to have that willingness to accept those differences, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really good as well, because we do have a lot of international students. And I suppose understanding about people's cultures makes it better for everyone. It makes their experience better, because then they understand that they have different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And respect may look different in a different culture and country. And people aren't going to know that just off the bat. So I think, again, putting the cultural film festival together was a really ingenious idea.
Well, we'd always done films, but they were films that sort of went nowhere. So there was always a film made that was a trailer for a fake film or a fake product advertisement. And then, so I'm working over here on EDI, and I'm working over here on PD1. And EDI is saying, we need to have more of a presence, and for people to be aware that, like, we're interested in hearing their feedback and changing things. And then over here, we've got PD1 saying, the films feel like a waste of time because they never really go anywhere. So we smash them together. and it worked.
So one of the other things that I really picked up from you when I first met you, and it's kind of come through already today, is how passionate you are about the ED&I work. And obviously there are 9 characteristics plus. And I also know that within your personal life, I know that you have children, and I know that some of your circumstances aren't always the easiest, and I know as a mum as well, and it's up to you if you want to share.
I don't mind. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, but I think that sometimes people see us in work and that's who they see, but they don't know what else we may be dealing with in our own situations, lives, circumstances. And I just think really you are a powerhouse, because I know a little bit about your background, and whether you want to share that or not, that's up to you.
So I've always been like quite a proponent of access for people with disabilities. So the first time I worked for LIPA, we had a performing arts for disabled performers course, and so we had quite a lot of hearing impaired and deaf students, and I sort of got LIPA to pay for me to go and learn sign language for level 1, so that I could go away and talk to students who were coming in from behind the bar. And it's something I really believe in, the social model of disability, which is that, people themselves aren't inherently disabled, but it's society puts barriers in the way of people which keep them out from accessing it. So it's, society's responsibility to include everyone. So this was like a long held belief. And then in 2014, I had my eldest, and about 8 months old, I was like, this child isn't the same as, I was in a mummy group, and he's not developing correctly. So it took a long time, but 18 months later, he was diagnosed with a rare chromosomal disorder called IDIC-15. So it's about 1 in 30,000 live births, and it's quite severe in Daniel. He has global developmental delay. His learning age is probably, so he's nearly 10 now, but his learning age is sub 1 year. He has hypertonia. He has severe drug-resistant epilepsy. So he's now had like a little electronic device installed in his chest, which can sort of detect when he might be about to have a seizure, and then it gives like a little buzz to the brain to try and reset those electrical signals in the brain to like the normal status. He's got hypermobility, and if you can imagine how chaotic it is to try and manage a baby that has just learned to walk, because he looks like he's new at it the whole time, like little Bambi on ice, but has the height of a 10-year-old, then that's my Daniel. And then for about 5 years after that, we were like, well, can we handle having any more children? It's not, Daniel's condition is unlikely to reoccur, but we can check for it beforehand anyway. So we had Lachlan, and all the pre-screening things looked great. And then Lachlan started to develop unusually as well. And there's no genetic or chromosomal cause for that. He just has very severe autism. Mm-hmm. So very emotionally difficult for him to regulate. He's non-verbal. There's lots of echolalia going on, so I'm hoping that'll change. And has all these little obsessions and things which can make it really, like if you put his left boot on his foot instead of his right boot, sends him into complete meltdown, and you don't get to leave the house that day because he won't let you. So they're both quite different as well in terms of their particular needs, but it's tricky to manage both of that, because there's not that wraparound childcare for school holidays and breakfast clubs and homework clubs for children like Daniel and Lachlan. So it was kind of instrumental in me coming back to LIPA, actually. I had to give up my previous job to look after them, but LIPA, of course, you're not in as much during the holidays, and a lot of my work is evening and weekends when my husband can be at home, and then I can be at home for them a bit more, like when school finishes and stuff like that as well. So that's how I ended up coming back to LIPA.
So I think when we started working together and I started to get to know a little bit more about you and some of your background and stuff, I was like, wow, how is this woman doing everything she's doing and then doing everything at home as well? And I think...
No social life. Yeah. Lots of wine, no social life.
Yeah. I think sometimes, you know, as a mum, as a woman, I think, you know, obviously we did International Women's Day, you know, on the 8th of March. And as far as I'm aware, it's the first event that's been of that kind of size at LIPA around, you know, women. Sorry, guys, we're not taking you out of this because, you know, we need men as well.
We do. 19th of November, that's your day. Organise something now. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, let us know what you want to do. You can totally lead on it and we'll totally support you guys. But just going back to your story, Siobhán, I just think having you on board made such a massive difference. I think you was able to really shine in the areas that you really enjoy. It was great having you as another host as well. And that kind of just came about naturally, along with the lovely Eva Peterson as well. And I think as kind of a threesome, we worked really well together because it was originally just Eva and I. And then the more you and I were speaking, the more I thought, do you know what, you might as well just do some stuff, get involved, do some interviews. And
well, I wanted to introduce Nana Funk because she and I are her alter ego is somebody that I used to do improv with, so we were in the same improv companies and we've been friends even before that. So I really wanted to be on stage to say, you know, get on in, Nana.
You know what?
Show them what you're about.
Well, it was great to have her as one of our guests as well. You know, obviously we had altogether 15 guest speakers. We thought it was 10. Well, I thought it was 10 at one point. Because I think what was lovely is that we had women from all backgrounds, all ages. And again, you know, when I think about your story, you know, that's another story that I feel that should be shared, you know, and you have to feel comfortable with sharing that. And, you know, I think today has been a good time to share that as well, because I knew little bits and I just kept thinking, wow, how is she doing everything she's doing?
Oh, well, I think it helps that I love my job on the whole.
That shows.
Well, I love working with the students, and I come into work and there's something, you know, about how when you're a mum and you don't feel like anything you're doing is ever good enough. Like you particularly with my two, because there's no.
I thought that was just me.
No, it's me and you at least. But you come in to LIPA. And I think, well, certainly after 25 years in the industry, you'd want to hope I know a bit about what I'm doing. But people are appreciative. The customers are appreciative when you pull the stops out. My team are great. We get along really well. And they say, like, I'm a really good boss. Whether that's to get more shifts or whatever, I don't know. Well, maybe the fact that they want more shifts means that I must be a good boss. I really believe people leave bad managers as much as they leave bad jobs. So I've got quite a faithful little team. Certainly, I think the social aspect is why I like going into a coffin manufacturers every day as well, because we had like a great little team there as well. Like as office manager, I recruited some people who really sort of gelled. But yeah, I think because I enjoy my job, it makes it much easier to deal with my home life as well.
Yes,
being stressful. I was saying to my husband's been nearly a year in post. He works at he's a university teacher and lecturer over there. And I was saying to him last night, do you actually enjoy your job? And he went, well, who actually enjoys their job? And I went, oh, I do.
Yeah.
I do. But I love the little unusual things and not run-of-the-mill things that come along for like doing International Women's Day. And it's a bit of a break from the routine aspects of my job. Some of it can be very routine, but doing that was like, I was doing all kinds on it, like, you know, organising the catering and the staffing, sure, but like designing the little sound snippets and the graphics for the stage and the screen and everything like that as well. It's like really creative. So I loved doing that aspect of it as well. So it was a lot of hours, but I really enjoyed it.
Well, I think between you and I, we both had a lot of sleepless nights. I think it was absolutely worth it. But I kept seeing things in you that I was kind of like, okay, just you go with that, you run with that, because you've got so many different skills and attributes that I wouldn't have known had I have not been working that closely with you. And you don't always get to find that out and get to know that about a lot of staff, because there's so many staff here. There's so many students, and I try and work with as many people as I can. But I think working on International Women's Day was really a big eye-opener for me as well, understanding, as you said earlier, how LIPA actually functions, who you need to go to get what, because there's always somebody that you need to ask for something, or you need to get permission, or there's always something. And what was great is that you kind of knew who most of them people were. And when it did come together, I think it surpassed my expectations. I don't know about you. I think I think we just wanted to make a really good event, but actually it went above and beyond, because we obviously had the networking after. And I think some of the feedback we've had has just been phenomenal.
It's been really good. And I think what we want to do next year is like it worked really well, but how we got there, because we were both new in sort of doing an event quite like that, because it's the first time LIPA's ever done that sort of variety of guests. How we get there will probably change, because we'll know a little bit more what we'll do it, and we'll probably allow ourselves a little bit more time in the auditorium as a run up. For sure. But the end result, I don't think was a bad result at all. I think and everybody was being so nice about it. And the only shame is like that time slot is really difficult for people on timetable to come to. But hopefully that's something we can revisit for next year.
Well, next year it's a Saturday, so it might work very differently. But it was absolutely great to work with you on that, and just to get to know you more, and to get to know your skills and everything that you, because what I do remember is, in between all that, there was also other shows running alongside that, and you was also managing all of that as well on top of it.
Yeah, so we played over the top of Amelia, didn't we?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I ended up interviewing Jamila Khan, who was the director of Amelia, because I was going to be on shift the night before, and I was like, well, I'm going to go in and watch it so that I can ask Jamila questions that are relevant to the actual show that she's producing this week. But then, as soon as we'd sort of done with the networking event, I got changed back into my blacks, and I went and did box office for the evening show as well. So, so that's the thing, and quite often, because I design all the programs as well, and every single student, their program is really, really important to them, and it's important to me as well, because I want to get it right. But I might have like 5-6 programs in the design stage at one go. So that can be like spinning plates a little bit as well.
So talking about designing the programs, what do you think about the new pictures that we have now around the institution?
Really
good, aren't they? Yeah.
We need to. You could sort of walk into LIPA and not really know the age of the people or the activities of the people just by being in the common areas, and now you do. You can see people doing what they do. A little bit like the screens as well, because some of the screen images have like showing our students do what they do best,
and
it's
you as well that's doing the screens, isn't it?
I'm part of the screens team. I sort of upload stuff generally, but then I design all of the EDI content for the foyer screen as well. So things like when we have Ramadan or it's Passovers up there, we had St George's Day yesterday, and so we sort of creating awareness of those events, recognizing that they're going on at that time, but like I quite often try and put some fun facts about. I sort of see them as being, like the Google Doodle, where there's you open up your Google homepage and there's like an image that is different from the usual icon, and then you click on it and you can find out some more stuff about what it's about. And I see that foyer screen as being,
I think it looks really good when you first come in, and literally in reception you've got also for instance, I think recently you've had Africa Oye up, Pride and something else.
Yeah,
There's
so we're
three-
trailing all the exciting stuff that our students might not know about, because a lot of them go away over the summer, and saying, well, if you want to stay here, there's loads of festivals and things that you can get involved in, attend, volunteer on, create work for. You just need to find out about them before you start making your summer accommodation plans, because there's a lot going on that happens in Liverpool over the summer. You know, there's even more than those 3 things that are up there at the moment.
Yeah.
So, and then of course I like people to stay around, because I like people to work on my 419 events, which happen sort of after term finishes as well. So yeah, Liverpool, it still buzzes over the summer, and people need to get involved in that.
You are like non-stop, because I know that you also get involved with the Pride March as well.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's a social thing for me as well. I go there and it's like who's who of the arts community at Liverpool, and I'm not the only one who's worked in a few different arts venues in Liverpool. So I just go there and catch up with loads of different people. LIPA's done it in an official capacity for the past 2 years. And gone along with our banners. And last year we got our T-shirts, and that felt really good. And then one of my stewards came last year, and she said she's friends with she's the daughter of one of my best friends as well. So she said to me, I think I came to this march when I was really little. I said, I carried you round this march when you were really little and your mum's arms got tired. Because she's 18 now, so she comes along in her own right. And it's the Liverpool Pride thing is not just about celebrating LGBTQ plus community in general, but very much about Liverpool as well. So it's called Pride in Liverpool. And it's very much family orientated, like on the street entertainment, but then lots of the kids and the families come out and watch the procession as well, because it's just a beautiful, colourful thing. And last year, Liverpool was sort of twin hosting it with Kyiv Pride as well. So because they couldn't do those things, obviously being at war, Kyiv Pride Committee came over and co-hosted. And it's really, they were talking about some of the issues that they sort of face in that, because equal marriage isn't a thing in Ukraine. People were being forced to go off to war in male couples, and not sort of being able to go together. A lot of them were drafted in, but not also because they couldn't be each other's next of kin in an official capacity. So not knowing what was happening to that person when they had been taken away to war, that official relationship isn't recognised. So there's still a lot to fight for Kyiv Pride in a protest sense as well as a celebratory sense. And that's really poignant when you think about that those rights that we enjoy here aren't enjoyed the world over.
Yeah. You've got an absolute wealth of information, Siobhán. I feel like whenever I speak to you, I always learn something new, whether it's about the institution, whether it's about what you've just shared now. I don't know, do you read a lot? Do you just seem to just know stuff?
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
I find,
I don't know if you feel this as you get older, because we're like of a similar age.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm running out of time to make impact on the world, to make the world a better place. And so as I get older, like my appetite for learning more increases. So I always go to sleep with a podcast, which is either like I'm really interested in one called Hidden Brain, which is about human psychology, and I incorporate some of the stuff that into lectures, because some of them will be about conflict resolution, or some of them will be about understanding failure in a positive light and failing positively, like learning from those, which is very much about P1 and what that's about. Listen to like The Guilty Feminist, which I love. Just loads of kind of really factual, political kind of, or some of them are just funny. Like I listen to the QI Elves do a podcast, and they're just ridiculous facts. So that's like my lighter podcast diet, but I'm always like listening to stuff, really.
Yeah.
I did, so I've got an autistic son, and I'm like many parents who sort of get child diagnosed with autism, and they go back and read the bump, and they kind of go, oh, hang on a minute, because I thought all of that was normal. So I went back to my GP and I spoke to my family about it first, and they were like, yeah, I think you are autistic. And it's very common for women to get to sort of my age and not have been diagnosed with that, because women are very much more socially motivated and divert a lot of their attention to mirroring the kind of social behaviours that they see around them and masking their autism symptoms by doing that. So so I went back to the doctor and they got me to fill out something called an AQ10, which is like a questionnaire where they sort of see whether you need referral for more attention on this. And I took it back and I said, well, I got 8 out of 9, but I couldn't do that other question. And she said, what question's that? And it said, when you are reading fiction, do you struggle to identify with the intentions of the characters involved? And I said, I don't read fiction. I don't watch a lot of fiction. I like a lot of comedy, but I mainly like documentaries and things like that. And she was like, I think I'm just going to put that down as 9 out of 10, and we'll get you that referral, which would be interesting to see whether it comes up. I think it's important to get that official diagnosis, even though it can't sort of change necessarily the way that I do things. But I think it will make a lot of stuff make sense in my life. But I don't want to appropriate a diagnosis that isn't mine. Yes. I like to open up the conversation about neurodivergence and sort of how, it's just a smaller number of people that communicate or have these ways of doing things, but it's not unusual anymore. And so those people need to be included. And I think I think it's really interesting as well that there might be a lot of people not understanding some of the sort of childhood traumas they experienced, and why they are the way that they are. And it can be quite hard on themselves because of that. But if you understand that you're wired differently and you're neurodivergent, you can sort of go back and forgive yourself a little bit for some of those things. And when I was talking earlier about being bullied and how kids can spot the odd one out, that's a big red flag for being undiagnosed autistic. So it's not something I want to sort of start that conversation. I think understanding people who are neurodivergent is really important.
That is a really good conversation, Siobhán. And I'm actually, as I'm sitting here just listening to you, I'm thinking you could do your own podcast about that. Have you thought about that?
I have. Well, it's interesting. I have a friend who has just finished her MSc in psychology, and she wants to start a podcast about neurodivergence. And I'm going to be giving her some training. We're not going to be in this like tech studio like this, but she's going to start small. I'm going to show her how to use some free software for sort of sound editing and that kind of thing. But I don't know whether, I said we'll do a pilot together.
Yeah.
But she wants to take it very much in a direction that she wants to go in. But then I've got another friend who is dyspraxic and has had people say to her, I think you're autistic as well. She's interested in starting a podcast. So I do think I would like to do something like that.
I do think it's such an interesting subject, and I think so many people are wondering, do I have some of these traits? Should I get tested? Should I? And it's not that... It's a difficult one because I think we don't want to label everyone. But as you said, we also want some clarity if we do feel like we do things differently or we learn differently. And everybody does actually, as we know, learn differently, people learn by audio, kinesthetic, there's 3 different ways. When I did my teacher training, that's what I learned about, the 3 different ways that we learn and we take in information. And I think that talking about neurodiversity and stuff is actually making it more accessible for people to be able to understand it, and making people feel more like, well, you know what, I might do things differently, but I'm okay, and accept who they are and why they learn differently. So I totally understand what you're saying, but it is... I think it is intriguing just to listen to it and to listen to what you've gone through with your diagnosis and then your journey as well, and how you kind of back up some of the things that have happened and some of the things that you're speaking about.
Yeah. I think the other thing is as well is like, I no, I don't come across particularly well in email. Like when we're face to face like this and I'm talking, I think tone of voice is so important. And I probably might say things, but in emails that don't have that tone of voice where I can sound like I'm whinging, but I'm not that bothered. I'm just bringing something up or whatever. And so that's like something I want people to know about. I may not be thinking about things in the way that you think I am from reading one of my emails. I've just knocked my pop-up stopper.
It's fine.
And the same with text messages. And I have one of my steward team, and they've got an autism diagnosis as well. And they will just message me out of nowhere, and there's no like, "Hi Siobhán, how you doing? Just wondering, what's my call time for tonight?" I'll just get a message out of the blue that says, "What's my call time for tonight?" And that comes across as quite blunt, I imagine, if you're, but it's actually like a bit of a relief sometimes, because if I write a message or write an email, usually the last thing that I will put in will be like the greeting, like, "Hi, how are you?" I sort of respond to an email and go like, tap, 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 tap. This is what's in my head. Yeah. And then I have to, if I don't go back and reread everything and top and tail it appropriately, that's where it comes across as rude, but it's not instinct. My instinct is to reply to that. So with my steward, I can just go, you're on at 6:30. See you then. Bye. Not even.
But also, you know who the person is, so you know what the intention is. Yeah. So I understand that, because I think sometimes with emails and texting and stuff, things can get lost in translation, and I always prefer, if it's possible, to have a conversation.
Face-to-face, yeah.
I suppose the other thing that I've started doing recently is voice notes. Because it's just easier. I just think, rather than typing all that out, let me just send a quick voice note, and then they know what the intention is. They can hear it in my voice.
Interesting. My friend that wants to do this podcast, and she's a big one for voice notes, but quite often I'll get them like of an evening when I'm in work, and I'm like, I can't access that until it's all gone quiet around here. And because it's a friend whose daughter is on my steward team, I'm like, she might want to message me and say something that she doesn't want her daughter to know about. So if she's on fire officer, I can't listen to it until she's somewhere else. Yeah. Or sometimes we just listen together, because it's like a podcast on its own, like these voice notes that go on and on. And we just listen to it and laugh in a very friendly way at her mum creating. She's already a podcaster. She just doesn't know it. She's just got an audience of 2 people, and that's it.
Well, 2 people, that's a good start. So Siobhán, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in today. Thank you so much for coming in and being a guest on our LIPA Come Together podcast.
Thank you.